Where do you play your systems? Why do you play your systems? And when do you play your systems? Let's have a chat about it, shall we? Hi guys, welcome to Owl's Retro Handhelds. Today we're going to have a little chat about all the different little systems, where you like to play them, why you like to play them, and when you like to play with them. Let's go through some different ones, shall we? And we'll separate them up into sections and go through them bit by bit. So here we have a little selection of what I call my small handhelds. So going from the left to the right, we've got the RGB Nano on the left here, very tiny, a 1.5 inch screen. Next to that we've got the fairly new out Gamekiddy GKD Pixel in green. Next to that we've got one of my all-time favourites really, the Miyoo Mini, the original smaller 2.8 inch screen. And then just next to that on the far right here we've got the Miyoo Mini Plus. Now with this particular first section, well, again like I say, the small handhelds, what I like about these is their form factor, just how small they are. These things are just great. I mean, this is small enough to stick on a keychain. The RG Nano, I wouldn't recommend that. They're far too expensive to be cluttering against your keys and getting scratched up. But that's just how tiny it is. One of the down points with the RG Nano is it is so tiny that although you can play on it and it does play up to PS1, I wouldn't suggest it for a long-term gaming. The next one up, the GKD Pixel, I think is a nice in-betweener between the Nano and the Miyoo Mini. It's just that little bit smaller than the Miyoo Mini. It's got a nice weight to it with the aluminium shell. So that's definitely a great choice to just stick in your pocket. The blue one here, the Miyoo Mini, I would say really caters for all sides of things. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's certainly big enough for a decent gaming session. So that would generally be one of my first choices if I'm just sticking it in my jean pocket and going. And the Miyoo Mini Plus, on the other hand, does have the benefit of having the Wi-Fi connectivity, although if you're on the go, that's not really going to be something that's that you take into consideration. So where would I play with these? These are small enough to be able to just take out your pocket if you're in a queue somewhere. They're not a massive gaming device that you're gonna have your hands far apart with. If you're sat on a bus and you're sat next to someone and it's all a little bit awkward, you're not going to feel too bad if you crack out one of these and you sit with your hands close together, just playing on your little handheld there. So that's where. The why, again, for reasons I've just said there, is they're small enough not to be too, intrusive to other people. You can stick your little headphones in, listen through your headphones. So that's really what I call the small handhelds. Let's move on to the next ones now. The fun systems. So the ones I've got in front of you here are what I like to call my fun systems. These are ones that I would kind of take round to my mates if I want to show them just how cool these little handhelds are. Not so much because of their functionality, really more for their little quirks and just the way the handhelds themselves are. So for example, the RG Nano up in the top left here. Obviously the factor with that is its size. It's so tiny. I like to take this out with me to show people just how tiny these little things are and yet can still be usable. So that's definitely my go-to if I want to show my friends how cool these are. Same with the GKD Pixel below it here, the green one. Same reasoning really. Although for this one, the GKD Pixel, I like to take this one out and about because it shows the cool design, just how cool these little handhelds can actually look. As I mention often with this handheld, I love the weight of it, I love the design. When it's fired up, you have the little LED indicators on the side here, and it just makes it look really futuristic and really cool and modern. This one up here, the Anbernic RG280M, I love that simply because of the colour. Again, this is a metal aluminium shell, but I love most the colour of it. I think that's its most appealing factor. Again, it's got a metal shell, nice and weighty. A very old device now, to be honest. That's really quite long in the tooth, to be fair, as opposed to the one that's above here. But I love the colour. So this is kind of the odd one out, the Anbernic ARC-D. So all of these particular ones here that we've mentioned already have got the aluminium shells, and they've all got their own very apparent, appeals, with the colour, the size and the design. The reason I like to take the Anbernic ARC-D out to show my friends and things is because of the fact that it's got touchscreen, which none of these others have got, and it's got the dual boot. So a lot of my friends are quite geeky like me, and I love to show them how you can boot into both Linux and also then boot into Android if you wish with the touchscreen. So that's for this little section here, what I like to call my fun section. They're literally just because they're fun. That's why I love them, and that's why I often take these ones out. The medium size. So this is what I like to call the medium size handhelds. So they're size up from the spools that we went through earlier, but still nice and pocketable in my opinion. So from left to right at the bottom here, we've got the RG35XX Plus. In the middle, we've got the original RG35XX, and on the right here in orange, we've got the R36S. Along the top, we've got a fairly new released RG35XX-H in clear white to match with the 35XX here. And then in the top right, as we've just shown, we've got the Anbernic RG280M with its gorgeous colours. So these I've selected as being my medium size handhelds. Again, easily fit in a pocket, and also again not too intrusive. So again, these are just great if you stood in a queue, just crack them out of your pocket, fire them up. You might get a few people saying, what you got there, a Game Boy? And you can say, well, kind of, but it's not a Game Boy, it's more than a Game Boy. And then people get generally so interested in them because they've never seen anything like it before. Again, you can use them on the bus, any kind of confined areas. You can easily crack them out, and you're not really impeding on people's space too much. A lot of these have got forward facing speakers other than the top two, so the sound's going to be coming at you rather than going out to everybody in the room. And if that is too much of an issue, you can always stick headphones in. So these are what I'd put in my category of my medium sized handhelds that still fit in a pocket. So no need for a bag. If you're going off out and about and you haven't got a bag with you, you can still grab one of these bad boys, slip it in your pocket, and off you go. The sitting at home handhelds. So the ones we've got in front of us here, guys, what I class as the ones that are great for if you're just sitting at home. So these ones are slightly larger than the ones we've gone through in the other sections. So some are still fairly pocketable. For example, the Powkiddy RGB30 down in the bottom left here, the white one. But the other three, you're kind of going to need fairly big pockets for. Either that, or you're going to need to shove them into a bag. And not everybody has a bag when they go out and about. So for these, I class these as my sitting at home handhelds. So these ones I would like to generally use if I'm sat on the sofa, you know, and the wife's watching TV, I want to do a little bit of gaming, I can sit on the sofa and still use any of these handhelds and be perfectly happy. They're also what I would call the better handhelds if you're going to be doing a bit of long-term gaming. You know, if you're going to be playing for 2, 3, 4 hours, I'm quite sure you're going to be more comfortable using one of these bigger form factor handhelds than the smaller ones we've previously gone over. So going through these ones, top left here in wood effects, which I must say, absolutely love the wood effects handhelds. Anbernic, if you're listening, please, please, please do more of those wood effects ones. I'm sure they're not everyone's cup of tea, but for lots of us, we absolutely do love the wood effects, and there's nothing more cooler. I know recently I was around someone's house and someone had come in and they said, "Oh, what have you got there?" And I had this one here, the Anbernic 405V, and they actually thought it was like made of wood. I was like, no. And they're like, "Oh, was it a Game Boy?" And I'm like, no, it looks like a Game Boy, but this does every single console you can imagine. I don't think they really understood exactly what it was, to be fair. I don't think they could quite understand what they were seeing. But anyway, going back to top left, we've got, in the absolute gorgeous wood effect, we've got the Anbernic 351V. This was one of the earlier systems that I got. This came with a 500 gig SD card, was custom made by a YouTuber, and I was blown away. It was definitely my favourite handheld for a long time. It was a nice size, had a little analog stick. The only thing with it is it isn't that powerful. That's the one thing that kind of lets it down. If you're just going to be playing 8-bit or 16-bit, absolutely perfect. Just what you want. These other three that are shown are a little bit more powerful. So going across to the top right here, we've got the, again, fairly recent out, the absolutely incredible, absolutely love it, the Anbernic ARC-D. D is for dual, and so there's two versions of this particular handheld available here. You've got the D and the S. The S is a Linux based system only, whereas the D for dual is actually dual boot into either Linux or Android. So this features a 4-inch touchscreen IPS, and it's, as you can see, based on the old school Sega controllers. So a lot of people will say it looks rather like Sega Saturn controller. Personally, I think it more looks like the Sega 6-button Mega Drive controller, because that's what I was used to using. Definitely one of my favourites at the moment. If you haven't got one, do look into them guys. They're pretty powerful. They play all the old school systems, including Saturn, Dreamcast and N64 as the higher end. Still not really PS2 or anything above that, but anything up to that plays pretty well. Bottom left corner here in white, we've got the Powkiddy RGB30. Recently done a review on this, or a little overview. I kind of like it and I kind of don't. The appealing factors for this particular one is its 1:1 ratio screen, which, as I mentioned in other videos, is great for Game Boy, great for Game Boy Advance, great for Game Boy Color. The other systems, you're going to find that because of the ratio aspect of the screen, you're going to be having black bars top and bottom. It's not a deal breaker, but to be honest, it's not my favourite handheld. And then we go to the bottom right here, again in that absolutely gorgeous wood effect. Anbernic, please, please, please do more like this. I love the wood effect. If I could have all my handhelds in wood effects, I definitely would. This bottom right one here is the Anbernic 405V. It is my most powerful handheld that I've got in my collection at the moment. Absolutely love it. It is really what I use for my long-term games if I want to build up save states, because to be honest, it's the one that's most comfortable to play on. Although, to be fair, the Anbernic ARC is also very comfortable. I'm liking the horizontal handhelds at the moment because they, in my opinion, are more comfortable to use than the verticals. However, with the 405V being my most powerful system, I use it a lot. It plays all the old school systems, but also does play PS2, GameCube, Wii, and that's about it really. But just having that ability to play PS2 is pretty cool for me, because PS2 was a lot of my childhood, so brings back a lot of memories playing those. So there you go guys, that's the 4 here that we've got, which I like to call my play at home systems. The comfortable selection. So here guys, we've got what I like to call the comfortable selection. These are the ones that I find most comfortable to play on. There is a mixed bag here of performance systems, going from the much older systems down in the bottom right here to the much newer systems in the top left. So I've selected these. One feature that you'll notice is the same with all of these, is they're all horizontal handhelds. I've been used to having so many vertical handhelds because, to be honest, a lot of them are designed on the Game Boy kind of style, let's be honest. So a lot of the ones I've bought in the past are the vertical type Game Boy style handhelds, which are great. They're great for putting in your pocket, but they're not as great comfort wise for long-term gaming. So as mentioned in the previous sections here, we've got the RGB30 by Powkiddy down in the bottom left here. Very comfortable. Love that device for its comfort anyway. Performance, as I've mentioned, is not as great as I expected it to be. Bottom right here, we've got the much older Anbernic 300X. I love both the comfort of this and also the design. I think it's such a cool design. It's gone for a very retro look with the gold and red of the old school handhelds that we used to have. In the middle here, on the right, as mentioned, we've got the Anbernic 280M. I won't go into that one too much. We've covered that on previous sections here, but I do love the colour. Do love the feel of it, the weight, and just how comfortable it is. The analog stick down in the bottom left corner isn't of great use really, because it's not the most powerful system in the world, but it's handy to have there. Then we go to the top right corner here, and we've got fairly newly released the Anbernic RG35XX-H. I've done a complete overview video on this recently guys, so if you've not seen that yet, please do check that out. That is one of my favourite handhelds at the moment, I'll be honest with you. For one reason, it being so compact and small, it's nice and easy to stick in your pocket, but as mentioned with this section, it's comfortable. I like the comfort of it. I'm really quite loving these horizontal handhelds for the comfort factor. So do look into the RG35XX-H. They're very affordable. I think they're around about £70 at the moment. You're not going to play the highest end systems on it, but everything up to including PS1 is going to play with no issues whatsoever. Also does play N64, Saturn and Dreamcast, but with varying degree. And then we go to the final one in this section here, which is the top left one, which is the Anbernic ARC-D. This particular one is one of my favourites at the moment. It's so comfortable to use guys. It literally is like a big controller. The L and R shoulder buttons are just so nice and comfortable to be able to press. It's got a lovely big screen, so you're not going to make your eyes too sore. The only down point about that particular handheld is it's not very powerful. and also the face buttons are very clicky. I mean, if you've got one of these or you've seen videos on, you'll notice that those buttons are very clicky, and I can imagine that getting really quite annoying after a while. But comfort wise, you're not going to have any troubles with that, playing for hours and hours. So that's it really, guys. That's the end of this section as well, and the end of this video. Thanks for hanging out with me and watching the video today. Please do like and subscribe, and as always guys, absolutely love it.